All right, so you're interested in genealogy, huh? Well, we've got a really interesting deep dive lined up for you today. We're going to be looking at what it actually takes to turn that interest into, a career. We've got career guides, job market trends, all that good stuff, even some insider tips we dug up.
It's pretty wild how genealogy has gone from kind of a niche hobby to like this booming industry. Like we're not just talking about those dusty old archives anymore, right? Technology is really changing the game.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into all that tech stuff, how it's shaking things up. But first, what does a genealogist even do? It's more than just like building family trees,
Oh,
right?
for sure. Think of it like detective work, but with history. They use all kinds of tools to piece together these family stories. Family trees, those are just one part of it. It's like a visual thing showing the lineage. But there's this whole other aspect, storytelling. They take those facts and figures and turn them into these compelling narratives.
Okay, see, now that's what I find so fascinating. Uncovering family secrets, lost relatives, maybe even busting some of those old family myths. That's going to be so cool.
Oh, it definitely can be exciting, but it's not always glamorous, you know? You need meticulous attention to detail. We're talking hours spent on public records, birth certificates, marriage licenses, death certificates, analyzing old letters, diaries. Why some even use DNA analysis these days? That can help confirm relationships or even trace ancestry way further back than we ever could before.
DNA analysis is huge now.
Mhm.
It's crazy to think we're unlocking genetic secrets that could have been hidden for generations. That's incredible. Speaking of digging into the past, this job must take you to some pretty interesting places.
Hmm.
Do you actually get to work in those dusty old archives like we were joking about before?
Sometimes, yeah, you'll find genealogists in libraries, historical societies. Sometimes they even travel for on site research and interviews. But that said, some of them work remotely, their own offices, that sort of thing. But even then, they're always connecting with people virtually to gather info and share what they've found.
So, not your typical desk job then. Each little thing you find adds a new layer to the story, huh? It's like a puzzle that spans centuries. Okay, before we get too caught up in the romance of it all, let's talk work-life balance. Being a genealogist, is that even a thing?
Yeah, that's really important. Got to be realistic. There's potential for flexible schedules, especially if you're self employed, but it can also be pretty mentally demanding. You know, long hours of focused research are common, and you have to be prepared for the emotional weight of what you might uncover. Family history can get pretty sensitive.
Right, so there's a certain level of emotional intelligence involved here, not just passion for history. It's not just names and dates on a page, it's real people, real emotions. Add another layer of complexity.
You got it. And that human element, that's a huge part of what makes the job so rewarding. Helping someone connect with their heritage, really understand where they come from. Those aha moments can be incredibly powerful for both the genealogist and the family, you know.
Speaking of powerful moments, I'm curious about the job market itself. Is this a booming industry, or are aspiring genealogists going to be fighting tooth and nail for every opportunity?
Well, you're in luck. Genealogy is seeing some serious growth right now, more and more people wanting to uncover their roots. And it's partly thanks to those online genealogy services and DNA kits. They've gotten really popular.
It's like they've tapped into this global curiosity about our origins. I know I've felt it.
Exactly. And that translates into real jobs. Projections show about 5% job growth for genealogists over the next 10 years. That's a good indicator of a healthy job market.
Music to any aspiring genealogist's ears. It's awesome that there's such demand out there. So we've touched on a few of the pros, already flexible schedules, always learning something new, helping people connect with their past. What else is there? What else makes this career path so appealing?
For a lot of folks, self-employment. A lot of genealogists are freelancers or consultants. Means you set your own hours, your own rates, and you can choose projects that really speak to you. Big draw for anyone who values independence, you know.
That makes a lot of sense. Being your own boss definitely has its perks. But you did mention it's not all sunshine and roses. What are some of the challenges that someone interested in this field should be prepared for?
Well, we talked about one already, the emotional side of it. Sometimes you uncover stuff, family secrets, scandals, or even just like painful memories. That can be tough, you know? For the client and for you as the genealogist, gotta approach those situations carefully with empathy, discretion too.
Yeah, it's almost like being a therapist in a way. You're digging up facts, but also these emotions, memories that maybe no one's thought about for years.
That's a great way to put it. It takes a lot of sensitivity for sure. And then, on a more practical level, that attention to detail we talked about, super important. One wrong number, one misread word in a document, and it can totally throw off your research.
Talk about a needle in a haystack. I bet being organized is like the #1 skill in this job.
Absolutely. Genealogists, they're like organization gurus. Think about it, they're dealing with tons of info, right? Historical documents, DNA results. Keeping it all straight is crucial. Speaking of landing that first job, you had asked about qualifications earlier. You might be wondering, do you need like a specific degree to even get started, a certification or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people probably think it's like being a doctor, where you need that medical degree before you can even think about it.
It's not quite that strict, actually. There's no one answer when it comes to education and genealogy. It can depend on the employer, the specific job you want.
Okay, so a little more flexibility there. That's good to know. Good news for anyone who, loves history, but maybe didn't go the traditional route with their education. But I'm guessing some kind of formal qualification still helps.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Having a degree, genealogy, history, even something related that can give you a real leg up. It shows employers you're serious, you've put in the time to learn the basics.
But it's like the foundation.
Yep.
And then you build from there.
Exactly. And don't discount certifications either. There are organizations out there like the Board for Certification of Genealogists. They're kind of the gold standard. Having that credential shows you really know your stuff.
And for our listener, that specific board is like the big one for genealogists.
Yeah.
Their certification, it's a big deal in the field. So think of it like a stamp of approval telling potential clients, this person knows what they're doing. That makes sense for someone more established, but what about someone just starting out? How do they break into the field, get some real-world experience?
You got to take initiative. Start with yourself, your own family history. Volunteer to help friends or family with theirs. You'd be surprised what you can learn just by diving in.
Practice makes perfect, right?
Right.
And what better way to practice than helping others connect with their own history?
Exactly. You can even offer your services at a low cost, or even free at first, just to build up your portfolio, get some testimonials. And speaking of showcasing your work, this is where tech comes in handy.
All right, tech time. You know I love a good tech integration. What's the deal with tech and genealogy?
Well, having an online presence these days, it's crucial. And genealogists, they're no different. I always tell people, think about creating a website, maybe a blog even. Highlight your skills, Share some interesting cases you've worked on. Maybe even offer some tips for aspiring genealogists.
It's like building your own digital storefront.
Right.
Potential clients can check out what you offer, see examples of your work, get a feel for your style.
Exactly. And don't underestimate networking. Join those genealogical societies, go to conferences, follow some blogs, online forums, all of that's out there. Great way to learn from the pros, make some connections.
Networking is so important, no matter what field you're in, really. Building those relationships, learning from people who've been there. So let's talk career paths. You land that first genealogy gig, what happens next? Is it a straight shot to the top, or are there different paths you can take?
It's like most professions, you usually start at the bottom. Entry-level stuff, assisting senior genealogists, doing research for them, data entry, that sort of thing. Paying your dues, basically.
Ah, the paying your dues phase. We've all been there.
Right. But it's so valuable. You're learning different methods, improving your research skills. You start to develop your own style.
And as you get more experience, more confidence, you can start taking on more, right?
Yeah.
Maybe lead your own research projects or even focus on a specific area of genealogy you find really interesting.
You got it. You might manage client relationships, head up those research projects. Some genealogists even develop specialties.
Oh, specialties. Now that's interesting. What kind of specialties are we talking about?
Well, genealogy has all sorts of niches. Some become DNA analysis experts, helping clients solve those really tricky genetic puzzles that a family tree alone can't solve. Others focus on specific time periods in history or certain geographic regions.
So you could be like the go-to person for tracing Irish ancestry or uncovering family histories from, say, the Victorian era.
That's right. And some genealogists, they really dive deep into specific types of records. Military records, immigration documents. They become pros at navigating those archives, figuring out all the little details, what it all means.
Wow, there's so much to this field. It's not just one thing. There's something for everyone, really. History buffs, tech people. But it sounds like no matter what, you got to keep learning, right?
Oh, for sure. Genealogy is always changing. New tech, more records going online. DNA testing's getting more advanced all the time. You got to stay current if you want to be successful.
So those conferences and workshops, they're not just about networking then. It's like
Yeah.
professional development, got to stay ahead of the game.
Exactly. And, as you build up your reputation, your client base, you might even want to think about publishing your research, like in genealogical journals, maybe even popular history magazines. Imagine that. Contributing to our understanding of history, sharing what you've discovered.
That's so cool. Leaving your mark right. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. We've covered so much ground, what a genealogist actually does every day, the skills, the education, even the different career paths you can take. Before we go, any last words of advice for our listener, someone who's ready to, catch the genealogy bug?
I'd say just dive in. Don't get overwhelmed. You don't have to know everything right away. Start with your own family tree. Talk to your relatives. Dig out those old photos and documents. You never know what you might find.
There are stories out there just waiting to be discovered, right? Lost family branches, tales of adventure. You might even find a link to something you learned in history class.
Those unexpected finds, that's the magic of genealogy. It's like putting together this huge puzzle of your past, one piece at a time.
And the best part is, it's a puzzle you can do at your own pace. Career, hobby. The journey is just as rewarding.
Totally agree.
This has been awesome. We went from deciphering old records to the world of DNA analysis. It's clear that genealogy is full of possibilities, personally and professionally.
It's really a fascinating field. History, science, human connection, all rolled into one.
So listener, if you're feeling inspired to start your own genealogical adventure, remember all those resources we talked about. Databases, online, societies, even DNA testing services. They can all be a huge help.
And don't forget about the power of a good story. Those stories you find about your ancestors, their struggles, their triumphs, that's what connects you to the past, to your heritage, to who you are.
So well said. The past isn't just history, it's part of us. And on that note, we'll wrap things up. Happy researching, everyone, and we'll see you next time for another exciting deep dive.